Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Logical Plausible Probable. I'm your host, John Maddox, and tonight we're having another stream you just won't want to miss. If you got what it takes, click that link, but prepare yourself, for this arena is not for the weak. Now, let the mental combat begin, but always make sure your arguments are LPP. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream that I did not think would ever begin, because good gravy, the debate over on Standing for Truth just kept going and going and going. But hey, looks like we finally have made it to the after show, and it looks like I'm losing signals. I hope I'm not roboting. But before we get going, as those of you who saw over in the during the debate, I've been running a fundraiser for a homeless woman that I've been actually helping out off and on for the past 7 years, actually. And this morning was rather interesting. I got a phone call from the police, and I was heading over to give them a ride. And anyway, very long story short, her husband was being arrested. And after my conversation with the police, he's definitely not getting out of jail and going to be going to prison for sure. And he's got a leaky heart and very advanced cancer, so he's probably going to die pretty soon. But anyway, Edie, actually her name's Edith, but goes by Edie. She has early onset Alzheimer's, and so him not being around anymore to help take care of her is gonna be a serious problem. So anyway, myself and some other folks were trying to find her because she's somewhere on the street. But I was actually out earlier, looking all over town. We're getting the police to try and track her down. But in the interim, running a fundraiser to try and, well, I'll put it this way: basically, everything no one owns is now evidence. They don't own much, and basically everything's been taken to be evidence in the case. So I'm going to all the money's being raised right now. I'm trying to get to 800 so we can put her up in a extended stay hotel for a week, get her a phone with some minutes, and buy some actual groceries and such. And then some other folks that I know, they are working to try and get her a slot in a special program that is directly for people with like mental conditions like Alzheimer's, dementia, things of that nature, just for women. Hopefully get her into that program ASAP. But like I said, in the interim to all that happening, to the spot to open up, need to get some money together to help get all that funded. So we're getting pretty close, actually, to the original goal of 800. We're at 655, so only 145 more bucks, and we will have hit the goal in less than like 4 hours, which would be fantastic. I really appreciate anybody who can go, even if it's $5. A bunch of us get together and do this. The money can be in place, and then we'll track her down hopefully tomorrow, or the cops will find her because I'll be back out looking again tomorrow. But hopefully we can get all that figured out very quickly and get her taken care of, and hopefully help this poor person whose life is basically imploding around her get her life somewhat under control, and we can get things, the next steps taken, since like I said, he's not getting out of jail. But anyway, enough of all of that. Link if you want to support is in the description. I've also got it pinned up at the top of the side chat. So if you guys can go check that out, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, without further ado, we've got Mark Drysdale and Jackson Rowe are backstage. There's somebody else who was backstage too, but I missed to get you in yet. Anyone wants to join, I will put the link in here again. Let's see here, join the stream. Link is in the side chat, folks. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the stream. How y'all doing? And Jackson, as always, another good debate. Mark Drysdale, for those of you who missed it, he was involved in a debate with Ken Hovind the other day as well. It was a good debate. We had a crazy after show. But welcome to stream, guys. How y'all doing? What are your thoughts? And let's see. Mark Drysdale actually beat you, Jackson. You're losing it, man. Your first arrival to after shows is slipping, man. It's slipping. But anyway, what's the Mark? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. What are your thoughts on the debate?
What are my thoughts? Is my mic working?
Yep, mic's working, coming through.
It was interesting. It gets frustrating. I know what Jackson went through trying to answer all this stuff that gets thrown at the wall. There's just only so much that you can possibly know. But it was pretty interesting to hear about continents spinning at a foot a minute or a foot an hour even. And my God, I heard about continents raising up so fast that water's running off of them and stuff like that. I just don't know where this is coming from. Water pooling at the bottom of mountains. We're talking about time here of millions of years, but you don't need millions of years for water to evaporate off at the bottom of a mountain, what he called a pool. You need days. So, just some of the stuff just seems so out there. I'm just really confused, and I kind of felt for Jackson because I don't even know, I have time to sit here and think about it, but he's got to try to, well, I know what it's like to be in a debate. I guess what it comes down to. You got to try to really think fast, and it's hard. And after you're done them, you always sit there and you go, oh my God, of course. Like, why didn't I think of that while I was on the spot? But it's a hard thing to do. People should all try it before they criticize it.
Well, that's very true. There are a bunch of big talkers out there who aren't very willing to come and back up their BS and all the trash talking and the gigantic CO Jones in comment sections. It's really amazing how many people are so brave in comments and then don't want to rise to the occasion and come back up their stuff in a mano type scenario. But okay, up next, Jackson, what's up, man? Welcome. And what did you think about the debate that you were just in that went on and on and on, and it was a debate that would never end.
Yeah, it was almost 3 hours.
I know, man. I was like, man, these guys got to be getting tired by this point.
Yeah.
But hey, Jackson is known, folks, for doing long debates and then staying in after shows for like
and then never drinking any water.
So, well, also there's an ongoing question of, does Jackson ever pee? Because we never see him leave. Either it's like, is there a diaper? Is it a hose? We don't know, but somehow Jackson manages to never leave the screen for hours. It's quite fascinating. But what's up, man? What are your thoughts on the debate tonight?
I think it went pretty good. I don't know who won or lost or tied. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But he definitely talked a lot more than me. I don't know if that makes him the winner automatically or not. I mean, it might make him look that way for sure. But it was an interesting discussion anyway. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say. But about the debate. But we'll get into the dumpster fire material later. So.
All right. Jungle Jargon, what's going on, man? How are you doing? Welcome to the after show. What are your thoughts on the debate?
Yeah, I think T, what was his name? T, somebody? I think he definitely T-Rock, yeah. I think he definitely won, but I was taking a nap the whole time and I just woke up, so I missed most of it.
Oh wow.
Well,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it, but the creationist won. I love it.
Well, what we have here is the exemplification of what happens on both sides, because it's like very funny to see. I mean, I know Jungle's joking right there, but I do see that a lot in comment sections of debates. It's like, I didn't watch it, but we all know that so and so lost. And it's like whatever the heavier leaning of a particular channel is.
Your side always wins. That's pretty much how it goes. It seems like.
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say that.
Not, but you know.
Okay, did I just turn my audio down, or is Jackson sounding lower here? Say something again, Jackson.
Am I sounding low?
No, I think you're fine. I think I bumped the volume on my microphone. No, I see it on. That's why I was joking. I see it on both sides quite a bit. I would argue that it leans a little bit heavier in terms of the atheists doing that, because I mean, I'll put it this way: there's been, especially like on MDD, there were multiple debates I was in where, I mean, the atheists just got utterly obliterated, and were admitting that they didn't know what they were talking about. And then in the comment sections after it was like, man, Maddox got totally destroyed. And it's like, throughout the entire debate, they kept admitting over and over again they didn't understand, and they had no idea. They didn't understand what was being argued. And I'm sorry, but if you can't understand a basic, like some very, very basic stuff, then you didn't win. That's all I gotta say. But anyway, let me see.
I would have to agree with that. And in my debate, we had Kent saying that burning wood was an example of turning mass into energy. He had single-celled animals sexually breeding, and yet I went back and read all the comments, and Kent apparently won it hands down. So, you know, it's kind of goes both ways on that. That's for sure. Kent's not the be all and end all. I actually don't find him to have the strongest arguments for creation. I really don't. I find you're much stronger, and standing for truth is pretty strong on it too. He knows his stuff.
I think T-Rock is actually better than Kent Hovind, actually. I will say.
Yeah, I don't find Kent to be very good at all. Like, I don't know how he gets this stuff by his people. And you know, he's still talking about it, and I don't want to beat Kent up. He's not here, but he's still talking about, you know, get my video series from 35 years ago. Well, we've learned a lot in 35 years. My God, that would be like me saying, hey, go grab me a science book from 35 years ago. I'll show you what I mean. Very little relative stuff in there from 35 years ago.
Well, see, I'm not suggesting that there aren't things that Kent could potentially modernize. However, there are the vast majority of the positions he takes have not been negated, and if anything, from a genetics perspective, a lot of the arguments have been substantiated. So, I don't know if I necessarily agree with you and everything you're saying there. Right? I get where you're coming from. And I think a huge portion of the reason that so many atheists have an issue with Kant is that he brings, a lot of the same positions over and over again. But how's the old, I'm very tired. What's the old saying of if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Yeah.
The atheists like to and evolutionists like to be like, oh, well, you just say the same thing over and over again. It's like, well, yeah, but you haven't defeated the point. Yeah. So maybe that should be like look in the mirror and wonder why people aren't being able to defeat it. Right. And
he's still got the moon skimming over the top of mountains. He's still got he still thinks that waves are energy of water moving. I heard that brought up tonight. No, water does not move. It's the energy over the top of the water. There's absolutely no movement on the bottom of the ocean except for ocean currents. And even at that, there's a boundary layer at the bottom. So you don't get a lot of mixing of anything at the bottom of the ocean. Things fall to the bottom of the ocean. They sit there forever until they're either eaten or buried. And most of it gets buried because there's not a whole hell of a lot down there to eat it. When you're talking 7-8 kilometers or 4 or whatever it is kilometers down, there's not a lot of stuff to go down there and scavenge.
But there are tides though, right?
Yeah, but tides don't move water. Tides are energy, just like sound. You're not moving air. You're not moving air when you talk. You're bumping molecules against molecules. Water does not move.
There's a lot of very dangerous.
It breaks on the shore, but it does not move across the ocean at all. Not even a bit.
There's a lot of very dangerous places that if you don't get out of there, you're going to be moved by water.
Yeah, you're talking about when it breaks on shore. Only when it breaks on shore. A wave is energy across the top of the water.
So now water does move on shore. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So the energy breaks
with Kent.
The energy breaks on shore.
Okay, we can be picky too.
I'll take a direct difference with what Mr. Drysdale is saying. In concept, yeah, there's a buffer zone for some types of wave propagation, but you don't have to look past the tsunami in Japan to know that water actually does move across the ocean floor. If you get tectonic movement in the ocean floor, you are absolutely going to move the water, just like you move the water when you wave your hand through the water in a swimming pool. The water moves.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely,
a wave does not move the water. Absolutely not.
Funny.
Absolutely not. Are you trying to tell me the water travels at 700 miles an hour? Or are you telling me the energy travels at 700 miles an hour? Think about that.
No, I told you. I said very plainly during the debate that the wave speed, the wave propagation speed, is a different thing than the velocity of the water.
Exactly.
But that does not mean the water doesn't move.
The water does not move.
Absolutely, it moves. That's how you get water going 40 feet into the air and then falling on land.
Because it's getting shallow.
What do you think, Jackson? You think water moves whenever there's a wave?
It's a wave crest holding the energy.
I think water moves. I'm not sure what you mean, Mark.
It's energy. Water does not move.
I'll tell you what is not the case. It is not the case that the water at the point of impact from whatever the source, the wave source is, I'm saying tectonic plate movement, the water that's at that point where the tectonic disturbance happens does not make it to the shore. No, and that's never what I ever said in the first place. It's the same basic
move from where it is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. If that wave was pushed up 1,000 miles out from shore, that water that was pushed against by the floor of the ocean is still exactly where it was.
Really? So how do things drift across lakes and oceans?
Because they sit on the top and they get pushed by the air currents, and they get pushed along by the energy of the wave.
And they don't get pushed along by the water currents?
There's absolutely water currents that are
what
set
causes
up
water
different
currents?
Temperatures. Because
you got to think about what you're saying. What causes water currents?
The rotation of the Earth can cause ocean currents.
Physical movement, right?
Wind can cause ocean currents, but no, waves going across the ocean, including the tide, does not move the water. The energy is being moved across the top of the water. If you think that something 1,000 miles offshore races to shore at 700 miles an hour, you're wrong. And if you think, oh, okay, well, the water shows up a little bit later. It doesn't quite go 700, but yes, some of the water that you think gets pushed up from 1,000 miles offshore makes it to shore. Tell me when and how. Give me a vehicle for it to show up, because if you were to put dye in the water exactly where the floor shifted, it will stay exactly where it is. Energy across the top.
No. If you put dye in the water where the ocean floor shifted,
absolutely it will.
What you're going to see the dye do is start dispersing. No, it won't make it to the shore.
Of course, it'll start dispersing, but that dye will never end up over on the shores of Japan.
Who said it would?
Not.
Who said it would? Who said it would?
You are. You're saying
no. I never said that. Moving. I've said like 5 times that is not what happens.
You said some of it will get to shore.
I didn't. I never said that. But the water does move. I didn't say it moves from the point of impact to the shore, but it does move. It has to move. That's how you get waves that are like 300 meters high, because the water had to move.
It's not moving. Just go look it up. I don't.
Oh, really? Waves that go 300 meters above sea level don't move.
Let me settle this.
On shore, they get pushed up as they start going on to shore, and the energy gets pushed up.
Oh, it gets pushed up. Okay, it goes up. Okay.
Let me show you this video.
Pushed up, but
goes up onto the shallows.
Okay, this is a video made on what light is. This is basically how also what's happening. Okay.
Okay. Well, now you're talking about photons.
Well, that's the thing. Light isn't a particle or a wave.
No, I didn't say it was. I said you were talking about photons.
Well, that's the thing.
Are you trying to say that photons don't have movement?
No, I'm saying photons are merely conceptual. They're merely a concept. They don't actually exist.
Photons don't exist?
No, they exist conceptual. Do you know what light is? Many people don't know what light is.
Oh, please explain to me, because we can bend light. We can use light to push on things. What are you talking about? That light doesn't exist?
No, I'm saying photons are conceptual. Okay, what light is?
Light is. What do you think light is?
Light is a perturbation of a medium.
So now we have water doesn't move and light doesn't exist.
Okay, look, when there's a wave,
doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. When there's a wave on a boat, the boat doesn't move. That's just a perturbation of the medium. But the boat isn't moving.
And you think that water is moving under that boat?
No, I'm saying it's just nothing's moving. The water isn't moving. It's just waving. The wave. Well,
that's what I just told you. I've been arguing this for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
waves do not move. It's energy on the top of the water.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Energy.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, but it's a little bit more deep than that. It is. Wait, sorry, I was working on something.
Yes, it's more deep than that. But I'm saying the majority of the energy that is breaking in the ocean is only doing it at the shoreline. You guys, when you talk like the waves are going to break up all this stuff on the bottom of the ocean. It does not go down to the bottom of the ocean. It doesn't go below the trough of the wave. That is the breaking point of the energy.
No, it's the current that moves the sediment. The current moves the sediments.
Well, now you're talking about oceanic currents. You're not talking about the tide having anything to do with moving stuff around on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, because if you get plate tectonic movement, the movement of the plate creates a current. It absolutely creates a current.
What are you talking about? Tectonic plate movement. They move at 1.25 inches a year.
Today.
You're not really going to try to say that they moved at what was it, 1 foot an hour, you said? That much energy would completely melt every rock on Earth. Do you have any idea how much energy that is?
Yeah, have you seen,
I don't think you have any idea how much energy
to smash continents into continents at 1 foot a minute or 1 foot an hour or even 1 foot a year?
Did you see what happened when India crashed into Asia? Did you see what happened there?
No, I didn't see it. Did you see it?
No, I've seen the result. Yeah,
You seen the result of you watch two
the
continents
result
run
is the
into each other?
mountains. You can see the mountains where India crashed into Asia.
Yeah, no shit. That's what I'm talking about. And it did it over millions of years, not in 2 days.
No, no, it was going fast.
Oh, it was going fast, was it? How
You're
fast
probably
was it
going to tell
going?
me folded rocks fold over millions of years without cracking, aren't you?
Absolutely. That's how they
Oh, now
bend.
you're in Never Neverland.
Yeah.
But no, I'm agreeing with the bald guy here. The bald guy is right. But the thing with light, I was debating Leo on this because you know how Krauss, the physicist who says everything came from nothing.
Lawrence Krauss.
Yeah, the guy who says everything came from nothing, right?
Yeah, that's Krauss.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
they all say it.
Yeah,
I say everything came from nothing.
Well, that's the thing. It's not nothing because everything essentially is
So
light.
it's not nothing.
Yeah, it's not
Not
nothing.
everything is light. Light is a frequency.
But then
Not
something
everything
has
is
to be
light.
made.
Light is not a thing upon itself. Light is an attribute. It is a perturbation of a medium. And so what is that medium? And the thing, that medium is the ether. And they don't want to admit the ether because the ether, it hints at God.
No,
And
they
this
haven't
is-
talked about this ether that you talk about for years. That's 30 years old.
No, okay.
That was an old belief that's how things had to move.
Because
through space.
it's
There had to
true.
be something there.
It's not consensus right
It's
now.
no, it's true.
All right. Quick time out, guys. Quick time out. So
Here,
I said quick time out, guys. I said quick time out, guys. Okay, thank you. All right. So everybody who's just joined the stream, we're obviously quickly degenerating into a dumpster fire, which should be good. But real quick, before we get back to the dumpster fire, other than this being an after show for an awesome debate between T-Rock and Jackson, the main purpose of this, from my perspective, is the fundraiser we're doing for a homeless woman who literally has early onset Alzheimer's and is currently lost, but there's a search party out looking for her. But I wanted to raise some money to help get her set up. Tomorrow, we're only $145 away from the goal. Link is in the side chat. It's also in the description. We'd greatly appreciate it if folks can hop on over there, toss in $5-10, and in no time we can have this covered and get her all taken care of tomorrow when this all gets sorted out. But anyway, appreciate it very much. Thanks so much to everybody who's already been supporting the campaign. Had some freaking amazing donations from everybody. Thank you for everybody who's already supported the campaign, and I really appreciate any further help people can do to get all this taken care of. Again, we're talking about somebody who is literally homeless, had everything taken away from her today, actually, because her stupid husband got arrested, and has mental issues and really needs some serious help. Can't take care of herself. So please go and support the campaign so we can take care of her tomorrow. Okay. All right, guys, back to the dumpster fire. Continue. And wait, actually, before we continue that, Sal just joined us. What's up, Sal? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. What's up, brother?
Hey, brother. I want to thank you for having concern for Alzheimer's patients. My sister she ran a nursing home, and she had a lot of Alzheimer's patients. It's a very sad condition. There's been some advancement in understanding it. I actually sent my sister a video on the latest, and it's a very complex cause. It could be related to what they call the biome inside the nose. Some of the bacteria may trigger it, and it contributes to the amyloid protein formation. Very complicated path, but there could be some hope. Because when I first saw what causes the condition, I'm just like, good luck ever finding a cure. But I'm pleased to report we're beginning to understand a little bit more of what may cause it. So there are genetic propensities, but there are also environmental factors. And it is not trivial. Like a lot of things can contribute to it. And so my heart goes out to this lady. So thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah,
and I've been doing a series, for the first 2 years on my channel, I've been focusing on biology because that's where the harvest has been really easy to just clobber the other side. And James Thorpe kind of proved that with Dave Farina. Just obliterate it, and we're going to win on other fronts in biology. So I now feel comfortable moving into the young Earth, young universe discussion because we're going to win that argument. And I don't see any end to the problems we're going to continue to find. The creationists just have to do a better job of arguing. And so I did a whole talk, almost a 4-hour talk on tactics of how to defeat evolutionism. And some of the way that we do it is kind of all knee-jerk. But I used to be a theistic evolutionist. I became a creationist. Sorry for the lack of focus here. But there's this book, Solar System Evolution. It was written to fight creationism. After I read it 20 years ago, I became a creationist for the solar system. I abandoned belief that it could happen with, like, they talk about like a nebular disk forming, because this book that promoted evolution did a very good job of persuading me that the solar system was made by a miracle. And so I'm doing a series on that. And then also there's this book about, I don't know if you ever heard about Antony Flew. He used to be an atheist. He's a famous atheist philosopher. Yeah. And he then became a theist. He said the evidence began to persuade him that there's a God. So that's what's up.
Well, and one of the interesting things about Antony Flew is he actually was the proponent. He was the catalyst for the lack-theist movement. And irony of ironies, most of the new atheists, and not all, but a good percentage of the loudest atheists on YouTube are lack-theists, right? And it's very, very ironic that the guy who pushed the concept, ultimately, to your point, Sal, irony of ironies, it was DNA actually is what served as the primary catalyst for him abandoning atheism and becoming a theist. And gets glossed over.
Question for Sal. Sal, would you agree that that solar systems are very unstable?
You're roboting a little bit there, Jungle.
Solar systems. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Are solar systems very unstable?
Very unstable.
No, it's not very unstable. We don't know long term. There are problems with orbital mechanics. But I mean, we're talking extremely long time scales. And we don't know. There have been some basic things, like why should the planets like Jupiter have formed? Because once the sun ignited, it's going to blow away all the gas. And gravity should not have, there was a very small window that Jupiter should have formed. And this is from the book. This is from a secular book. And I'm just like, and they're talking about all the things in the solar system, and they kept saying, well, this seems to be a pathologically difficult problem to solve because you have to concoct conditions that just look miraculous. And just like at some point you just throw up your hands and say, okay, how improbable does something have to be before you accept that it's the hand of God? I mean, that's just a question everyone at a personal level has to think about. So, by the way, I don't think, what's going on in Ukraine is very disturbing because we're dealing with a nuclear power. And I've been on my knees praying the whole evening because this could go real bad. If the Russians decide to cut the transatlantic cable, our banking systems could be in big trouble. So it doesn't have to go nuclear for things to go bad for the whole world.
Well, anybody who thinks that this is not the epitome of the mutually assured destruction scenario, my biggest concern is that the West, I'm more concerned about the West than I am Putin, to be honest. Because I'm pretty sure that Putin is gambling that nobody's actually crazy enough to go to that level. But I'm actually concerned about the like the stuff I'm seeing from DC. I mean, today there were talking heads in the United States and in the European Union talking about how they may need to nuke Russia. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
How about you guys just keep your mouths shut? How about that? I mean, you don't sit here and publicly state that you considering, preemptive nuclear strikes. I mean, this is like a serious problem.
So, it's like, guys, of any time to really start looking to a higher power to pray, I think things can get more serious than you think. And, that's why these discussions are important now, because if the Christian God is just kind of like all the pagan gods, just myths of human mind, then yeah, don't pray. And I get that. But, I think this is the time to be thinking about whether there's a higher power that listens to us. And I got to tell you, it really hit me. I said, I was praying a lot today. And so there, just like you, John Maddox, you felt that God intervened in your life, and that made a difference in the way you live your life. And I'd say the same for me. And so it was a pretty sobering evening. And, the tough thing is, I was just reading through this book and I was getting that same excitement I had. That, gee, all this could be, the solar system could be created. It didn't evolve. It's just kind of like abiogenesis. That when we actually start to study the probabilities and the mechanics of it, you begin to realize a miracle was needed. And it's kind of the same thing. And the other thing that Antony Flew did in his book, and I was just going through my bookshelf here, it's also the fine-tuning of the universe. And he was pointing out, he said it seemed that the physicists were really uncomfortable with that because the universe looked created because of the fine-tuning in the universe. And he said their only escape hatch was multiverses. And I'm just like, okay, how miraculous does something have to be before you think a higher power and an intelligence that put it together? So thanks for having me on, John.
Oh, of course, man. You're always welcome. And yeah, the point you're making about the fine-tuned universe and the multiverse escape hatch, it really fascinates me how the average individual likes to, talk about, oh, well, that's not that big a deal. And it's not really that, we're not using it. It's not an escape mechanism. It's like kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, so it's well established inside of academia that the multiverse is not something that's actually a testable concept. It is a faith-based position. So you have two faith-based positions, which ironically the methodological naturalists and the strict materialists claim, that's not what they're doing. But it's like, no. One of the foundational escape mechanisms you have in order to ground your worldview is a 100% faith-based position. So ultimately, we come back to now, what is the more rational conclusion? Is it more rational to conclude that the hyper-tuned, fine-tuned universe and all the other parts inside of it, they're also exquisitely aligned, is the end result of an intelligent agent's action, or that it is just completely random result in a multiverse? Like those are your choices. That's what it ultimately boils down to, at least in the current paradigms. And
yeah, and it's spilling into origin of life. Finally, they're doing the statistics on some of the chemical reactions. And James Carter and I went through a peer-reviewed paper, and that's what they argued, that the RNA world is so improbable to create these replicators, even a very primitive one, to say like 20 nucleotides, which is like trivial. And they needed to invoke multiverses for that. I'm just like, okay, how big of an improbability does something have to be before you even suspect or willing to entertain a higher power or higher intelligence put it? And we're not even talking about something as complex as a cell. And this is just in the mythical RNA world to begin with. And then,
are you telling me that they're now saying that we need multiverses for life to have taken hold on Earth? I've never
Yes.
heard that.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll put the links. I'll put the links in the comments. One was by Eugene Koonin, who heads the NIH's evolutionary genomics department. He's one of the most respected evolutionary biologists. He weighed into the origin of life. And then there's another peer-reviewed paper, Tamani or something, and it was reviewed on my channel. And we didn't finish it.
Just give me the Coles notes. Why do we need multiverse to have life? It's got to be sayable in one sentence. They're
no, that's the problem. You want one sentence? I'll give you 3 hours.
Hang on.
You know,
they don't need 3 hours. Why would we need a multiverse?
Sure we do. See, that's what gets me so mad. You're gonna love the drivel for hours. And when I have a chance to actually explain it to you, give it to me in one sentence.
I'll give it to you in one sentence, Mark.
Okay, I'm literally telling everybody to shut the hell up right now because I'm about to answer this question. Okay, so Eugene Koonin, H index 266, has done
one
the
person out of tens of thousands. Okay, go.
Okay, Mark, if you don't keep your mouth shut, when I've been being very calm and not really talking that much, if you don't keep your mouth shut, we're going to be muted. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm answering your question. So, are you going to shut up and listen or not?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. If anybody, whoever interrupts me, is being kicked out of this stream. Okay. Now, it is recognized not just by Koonin but by many, many others that the improbability for the transcription factors necessary for life is 1 in 10 to the 1018th power. The total number of particle actions in the universe is 10 to the 140th, I believe. Total number of particles is 10 to the 80th. So you literally do not have enough time, even granting a 13.7 billion year old universe. There has not been enough actions of every particle in the entire freaking universe to account for the improbabilities just for the transcription factors necessary for DNA replication. Okay, this is well recognized math. And that's before you get in, and that's like the simplest of the core functions that are necessary. That's not everything you need. That's just the root core functions for DNA replication. So that is why they rely on things such as multiverses, because in one universe, the probability cannot be accounted for. Hence, why they are looking for multiverses. The exact same reason they are looking for multiverses to account for the fine tuning of the universe, which the improbabilities are so ridiculous. And this is recognized by atheist physicists everywhere, that the improbabilities are they're incalculable and incomprehensible for the human mind. They're so astronomical. Anyway, go ahead.
So you're trying to tell me then that biologists are saying if there's not multiverses, so other universes that there's no possible way for us to contact or have any interaction with, that we need them to have life in this universe. That is completely not what you said. You said we need multiple universes for this to have taken place. There is no way for us to interact with another universe that we know of.
That's another problem. That's another problem.
It's not a problem. Why is it a
I
problem?
dropped 2 links.
There's a lot of problems with that. You have to provide a system on which a multiverse can stem from. So now you have to provide an even more complex system that's producing these universes.
I think one of the points here is that not all evolutionists subscribe to multiverse. It's a popular idea among some, but not all of them accept it. Nonetheless, it is kind of a plea for help, because what they're looking for is more chances to make something happen, because enough chances.
No, they're not. We can't interact with other universes.
Mark, you still think that RNA world is the primary position, when RNA world is no longer the primary position. They're suspending RNA world. I talked about this in the last stream, okay? And one of the many reasons, and to T-Rock's point, right? You're right. Not every evolutionary biologist has even considered the improbabilities, because they don't want to. They want to stay up at the roof level and act like, oh, well, life exists, therefore it must have just happened. Like they want to operate from that position, because if they actually do go down the rabbit hole, they run into very existential questions about, like, how is this actually realistic and plausible? Hence the whole point of my freaking channel. Was it logical, plausible, and probable that these things could happen without the necessity of a preceding intelligent agent? Like, that's what this boils down to. You're getting into, we have to have freaking robots in order, molecular robots, like things like the topoisomerase and other things that even the phylogenetic trees and everything they're doing, they're like, oh, it looks like these are little gizmos that have to be in existence from the freaking beginning in basically every all the organisms, right? Like even the most quote unquote simplistic ones have all these like stupidly hyper complicated technology components that are necessary for them to exist. And then we have evolutionary activists and advocates all over the place that act like they can just ignore the fact that you need things that are thousands of amino acids long in order for the most baseline functions to operate. And it's like, have you gone and looked at this for yourself? If the answer is no, then shut the hell up in regards to not having to account for this from a like ridiculous improbability standpoint. It blows me away every time on this. Go ahead, guys.
Hey, John.
Improbability has nothing to do with anything. The probability of me being on this earth, so many people had to meet, breed, that sperm had to be there, going back thousands and thousands of generations. The possibilities are astronomical. But no, the multiverse thing, you guys just fell apart there completely. Nobody says that for biology there has to be a multiverse.
So at the core,
just one sec. Why, if you think that we are the only life form in this universe, why do we need another universe when you haven't even accounted for the trillions upon trillions of other planets that are out there? Couldn't we just use them to help out with the problem of getting life going?
Okay, so Mark, this is another prime example of an atheist not actually listening. Didn't I already address? You're talking about the number of planets. What did I say in regards to the total number of particles in the universe?
But why do we need another universe?
Answer the question.
You were talking about things to 170th power and all this stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mark, again, this is proof beyond all doubt that you don't actually listen in these conversations. Okay?
Absolutely.
So let me jump in here real quick for Mark. What you alluded to is actually called the Fermi Paradox. Fermi asked the question, why aren't there a bunch of other life forms in the universe that are obvious to us? No, you don't have to go out. Well, somebody thought you did not have to go outside the universe. They thought what you said. You could just go to a different solar system, go to a different galaxy, whatever. Problem is, if such a thing were even plausible per Fermi's observation, you should have seen some evidence of them by now.
No way.
All of Fermi's variables are unknown even today.
Absolutely not. Even at the speed of light, you can't get anywhere. It's 80 billion light years across our universe. Come on, why would we have seen life yet?
Okay, let me explain why light is evidence for God, and let me bounce. Okay, let me share a screen again real quick. Video screen. Okay, I share. Not that one. This is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an atheist. Everybody knows that.
What are we talking about now?
Hey, Bubble, you didn't share your screen, bro.
He wants to show something.
Okay, there's a reason a bunch of the atheists.
Hey, Bubble, you never shared your screen, dude.
Oh, I didn't? Ah, dang. Let's see. Oh, I'm dumb. Okay. Let's see.
Hey, you can't hear it. Turn your volume up.
No sound.
No sound? Dang it. What is going on? Well, anyways, he's making fun of the ether. And here's the thing. Wait. It's not, light isn't a wave. For example, if you put your ear against the table and then you knock on the wood, you hear it more loud, right? It's using the medium of the wood so that sound perturbates your ears. It's the same thing with light. Light is perturbating a medium. And the thing with atheists, they don't want to admit what this medium is. For example, a materialist atheist wouldn't say what's happening in a video game isn't materialist. He wouldn't say that's paranormal. He would still consider that materialist. So if you're a god being and you make this universe, it wouldn't be material. It would still be spiritual, just spiritual in a different form. And so what this ether is it's the spirit. You could say it's the spirit of God. When Jesus says, "I am the light," you all know that line, right?
Sure.
I think it's a reference to him saying in a way he might be the ether.
He's a wave and a particle.
He's not a wave. It's not a wave or a particle. It is a medium that is not a wave or particle. It's the spiritual highway. We know it's a medium, but that's like I don't know who God is. I don't know what God is. To know what that is, the thing it's spiritual.
Sounds like what you're saying, Sal, is it's kind of like another dimension to add to the ones that we consider tangible.
Well, the thing it's not materialist.
Right, non-material, but a dimension of space, as we've got, length, width, height, time, whatever, and then there's a spiritual dimension in there too that's not defined by the other four that I named.
All that light tells us it's a medium, because all things that perturbate require a medium to perturbate through. For example, tapping on the wood, you need that wood, or to perturbate through, you need the air to perturbate through. So there is a medium. So when people like Krauss says it came from nothing, they're absolutely retarded, because this medium isn't nothing. You could say it's the spirit of Jesus if you want to, but it's not nothing.
But if it requires time and space, then it's a physical thing. If there's distance and time involved, it's a physical fabrication.
Well, you've never thought about what light is what it comes down to.
It's a perturbation of a medium. And then
question. Let's see what you know about light. Why is it that I can hold up a piece of metal and light won't go through it, but I can hold up a piece of glass that's perfectly solid and light goes through it? Do you know why light goes through glass?
Can you explain to me why light slows down when it goes through glass and then
I don't have to for my question that I just asked you. Why does light go through glass but not through a piece of tinfoil? And because the molecules are not packed any tighter. Glass is just as solid as steel. No difference.
Because that's how you're interpreting that data. For example,
No, I can see that light doesn't make it through steel. Anyone can get behind a steel wall.
Answer me this question. When light goes through a glass or water, it slows down, and then it picks up speed up again. But that violates the law of conservation of energy. So it's not a materialist thing. It is a medium. It is a perturbation of something that this black matter, this ether. And that's what it is. It's a perturbation of that thing. And that explains why it picks up speed after leaving that medium of water, leaving that glass. And it shouldn't be picking up speed after leaving that water or glass, because it's a violation.
For someone that doesn't understand why light goes through glass and doesn't go through a thin piece of tinfoil, you're making some very strong claims there on why we know why water speed slows down when it goes through water.
Why it's violating the law of conservation of energy when it picks up speed up again.
How is it? Oh wow. Anyways, why does light go through glass but not through the thinnest piece of tinfoil? You told me that light is nothing. It's
light isn't traveling. It's not traveling. It is a perturbation.
Light is not traveling, you say?
No, it is an induction rate. It's not
waves are.
Well, waves are it's like, for example, waves on water aren't traveling. You admitted that. Same thing with light. Light isn't traveling. It's a perturbation of a medium.
No, it's not.
Yes,
light
it is.
travels. We can use God, we have sails that we can push light up against. We can measure light. Come on. Don't try to tell us that it doesn't move. You're watching it move.
This whole photon is purely conceptual.
Go through glass that's 10 feet thick. We can take a piece of the clearest of silica glass. Why does it make it through glass and not through a piece of tin foil? Have you ever thought about that? When you sat down and tried to come up with this whole idea that light doesn't move and that light's not a particle and
light is not a particle. It's not a materialist thing. And that's the point. It's not materialist.
Right.
And then when you break down all these atoms, it's all light, because all elements are just composites of helium. And what is helium? Helium is high energy light.
All what is part of helium?
Composites. All elements are just composites of helium.
Well, of course they are. We've added a proton and an electron to move it up to the next element.
Yeah, and what atheists want to do is break down to these little quarks, even smaller BBs. And
we don't want to do anything.
Yes, you do, because you want to have this materialist idea that the world's made up of these little physical small BBs, when it's not. It's a perturbation of this spiritual medium.
Actually, we're saying that there's almost no matter, and everything is just energy. There is no matter when you start breaking it down to the fundamental level. We're the ones that are saying there is almost no matter.
Almost no matter? There is no matter. There is no matter.
Absolutely very, very little matter. When you start breaking down the quarks, even they are probably going to be broken down within the next 100 years.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. That's when Darth Dawkins asks people, what is your ultimate and fundamental? Atheists can't answer with the universe, because Darth Dawkins knows that the universe isn't materialistic.
But you just said that why would God make a materialistic world and not one that's just spiritual? So what are you saying? There is nothing here? All the matter that we're looking at is just spiritual?
No, we're in a reality, not the reality. That's the main point. The universe being finite is enough to settle this debate that we're living in a reality, not the reality.
And that's not pushing a little further than the whole multiverse thing, pretending that we need multiverses to explain life?
Because at least I have a reasoning why the universe exists. A God created this universe. I have a system. You have to provide a system by which all these universes are being created. And that's even more complex.
Well, anyways, light doesn't go through glass because the energy from the photon is absorbed by an electron. It's pushed out to the next shelf. That is the only reason you cannot see light go through. That's the only reason you can't see light go through a piece of steel, is because steel, it's easy for the energy to be absorbed by the electron, pushed out to another shelf, and it doesn't make it through.
No, because it's not traveling.
Pardon?
It's because it's not traveling. You presume.
Absolutely, it's traveling.
It is not traveling.
How else could a solar panel pick up photons, convert it to electricity, to electrons, over and over and over, if there's not a fresh pile of electrons showing up at the face of that solar panel?
These are electrons.
Have radiation. What do you think radiation is?
It's induction rate. It's not traveling. It is an induction rate. That's it. Radiation is an induction.
Radiation's an induction. So are you trying to tell me that you radioactively pick up stuff because it is inducted through what? Your ether?
Yes. All things.
No, that's
when you say something is perturbated, and it presupposes a medium. And what is that medium?
We'll look up light. You got to look up, as soon as you understand how light works,
yes,
and how the energy of light works.
Well, you couldn't answer why
that water. Okay, go ahead.
You couldn't answer why when light goes through water or through a piece of glass, it slows down when it goes through that medium, but as soon as it exits that medium, it picks up speed up again. But it couldn't. No, it couldn't do. It's a violation. It's a violation of the law of conservation of energy. And the only because it's picking up speed up again. Where's that energy coming from?
when it comes out the other, because whatever's left of the energy when it comes out of the other side that wasn't absorbed by the water is still going to travel on at the speed, and it's not doing that. It's refracting through water. It's taking a longer path. Come on, we know this stuff. This is ridiculous.
So you're saying little babies are bouncing around in the water, so they have to take a longer path?
That's why I asked you if you understand how light goes through glass or not.
So that's the thing. You're saying BB light is like these little tiny BBs, this sorry, I got a like dry mouth. Materialistic. That's what you're saying. If they're going because they're slowing down because they're bouncing around, you're saying they're just tiny little BBs bouncing around little water and then exiting. They're little babies.
You're not thinking on the molecular level at all. You're picturing things bouncing off of things.
You know you have to accept this absurdist idea.
You understand that, right? You understand the amount of energy it takes to eject an electron into another atom to move it up the element chain. It takes an enormous amount of electrical energy, pure energy. You're talking like atoms interact with each other and they
that's what you said.
Parts.
You think of light as this materialistic.
You're talking about radiation.
You're thinking of light as this materialistic little BBs. When they enter the water, they have to take a longer path because they're bouncing around.
Let's chill out for a second. I'm quite certain that Sal, as a physicist, has to be getting triggered right now. So Sal, what are your thoughts on this back and forth dialogue you were listening to?
I'm totally not involved in it because Mark said there's no one who believes, or no biologist that believes, promotes the idea of multiverses for the origin of life. Right after I provided links to 2 papers, one to Eugene Koonin, who is one of the most respected evolutionary biologists on the planet. And so what do you have to say now? I just provided you 2 papers. You're saying no one. Are you going to retract that now?
I'm on a phone. I can't read them right now. But all I'm telling you,
just because you can't read them doesn't mean that I provided the links. Are you denying that those papers exist?
I haven't looked at them. I can't see them. Send me a link. Send them to Improbable and have them send them to me. I'll look. Everything he sent me so far, I've looked at. So I'll take a look at them. But I don't know where anyone is pretending that we could even detect another universe. I didn't say we could detect it.
The point is, and you wanted me to explain this in one sentence. You wanted me to explain this in one sentence, which is ridiculous. I mean, I could give you I gave you one sentence from the abstract that would summarize. It doesn't mean you're going to understand it.
Yeah, the concept of
and it's right there. Do you want me, LPP, if you want to read the abstract, I provided 2 links. I can re-provide them. And Koonin's is pretty good. But also one in Nature.
Hey, Sal, share those links in private chat real quick, and I'll pull them up.
All right.
In the meantime, I have something to say.
Go ahead.
It's about the origin of life. Why do we find the earliest microfossils associated with hydrothermal events?
I gotta go. All right, see you guys.
See you.
How do you know it's earliest? What's earliest?
Radiometric dating, I guess. Which I guess I've already dug myself into a hole with that one.
All life was created at the same time.
It couldn't have been.
Had to have been.
Couldn't have been. There wouldn't be enough plant life on Earth to feed all those animals, those billions and billions of animals. I'm in the cat world, so I do lions and tigers. There has been 14,000 different cat species since the beginning of cats, and they haven't even been around that long. Come on, what are we feeding all these animals with? Even if there was only one of them, the Earth would be overwhelmed trying to feed them.
That's part of the problem. You have to have food for everything.
Yeah, it is a problem. Damn right it's a problem. Especially when they have to eat each other.
So how can it start if it doesn't have food?
How can it starve if it doesn't have food?
How can it start if it doesn't have food?
Because grass grows. And if
No, well then you have to.
if you slowly unroll life over hundreds of thousands or millions of years, that grass has a lot of time to grow and feed a lot of animals like ungulates that the larger predators can eat. But you put them
So then
all
you
on
have to
Earth
have.
at once with all the dinosaurs, with all these massive animals. You have the oceans full of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different species of animals, and they're all out there eating together. Come on, just
Yeah,
look at
you
how
have
much
to have
oil there is on the
everything.
Earth for
You have
6,000
to have
years.
everything at the same time.
Hey,
All right,
Jackson,
That's the point.
all right,
what
hang on.
percentage
Time
of
out,
our
guys. Time
animals
out.
do we have
Okay,
left, Jackson?
1%.
Sal, what were you
Pardon?
wanting me?
1%.
Sal, was
Yeah,
there
well,
a
I heard it
specific?
was 1% of
Oh my
1%.
lord! Okay, so we're gonna read a paper now. Sal, was there a particular portion of this paper you wanted me to look for?
You could just look at the abstract just for starters. So he's saying that he hasn't heard of this right after I told him, and he's, so you could, we're going to set the record straight here, and I think he ought to back down and
All
say
I
no
have
one's
is a
saying
phone.
this.
I had no way to read
Oh,
it.
oh,
All
that's
I had
not an
was my
excuse,
phone.
sir.
So I'm listening. Go
You,
ahead.
you're
Tell
making an
me.
assertion,
Okay,
and I
all right.
refuted it. It's right here.
All right, let's
I'm
read
waiting.
it. Okay, all right. Recent developments in cosmology radically changed the conception of the universe as well as the very notions of probable and possible. The model of eternal inflation implies that all macroscopic histories permitted by laws of physics are repeated an infinite number of times in the infinite multiverse. In contrast to the traditional cosmological models of a single finite universe, this worldview provides for the origin of an infinite number of complex systems by chance, even as the probability of complexity emerging in any given region of the multiverse is extremely low. This change in perspective has profound implications for the history of any phenomenon, and life on Earth cannot be an exception.
That has nothing to do with saying that we can interact with other universes.
I didn't say that we can interact with it, but it's right here.
Okay,
No.
Mark, earlier I literally was talking about how the multiverse or a intelligent agent, preceding intelligent agent, both of those worldview perspective as a foundation require massive amounts of faith because you can't test or interact with the multiverse, right?
That's what I've been saying.
Okay. I then proceeded on to say that to account for the improbabilities, which Kunin was just talking about how, like, in any one subset of the multiverse, i.e. our universe, accounting for the complexity is very, very, very low from a probability perspective. Like, it's like almost impossible for this to happen, right? This was the whole point that was being made.
But why is it linking cosmology and biology in the
There
same
is no
paper?
link.
Yeah, okay.
Because you have to have all the
guys,
conditions.
okay, seriously, Jackson, I know you're not this dumb, buddy. What do you mean? How do you not know how this relates?
Okay. No, I mean they're not necessarily related.
Okay. If there have not been, if this universe is the only one that exists, then there have not been enough particle actions in the entirety of the universe to account for the improbability of life forming from an undirected process. Where the multiverse comes into play is if the multiverse does exist, then even though there is not enough the probabilistic resources are not great enough in our universe to account for it. If we are just one of an infinite amount of potentials, then anything that is possible is or anything that is probable is possible. Is what the argument is.
All right, I read the title and misunderstood what you guys were talking about from it.
So anyway, long story short,
I thought you were trying to say that we could interact with another universe. No. But fact is, you're trying to tell me.
Mark, this is why I get very frustrated with you and many atheists on YouTube. Is this stuff gets clearly delineated over and over and over again, and then you guys claim that it wasn't somehow like it wasn't designated. When if you go back and watch this stream, I clearly stated this position. And
that
I had
we're invoking, that we as evolutionists are invoking the multiverse to explain the chances of 1/170 chances of something happen, or to the power of 170 chances. No evolutionist is ever said that we need a multiverse to explain this. Or
Mark,
he would write.
I literally
let me finish, and then I'll let you talk.
I literally just read from a paper of one of the top evolutionary biologists on the freaking planet with an H index of 266. We just read from his freaking paper.
Okay,
talking about this exact concept. Mark,
summary.
Seriously, bro, how much have you been drinking tonight? Have you been drinking tonight? Seriously?
No, I don't drink at all. So
okay,
his summary at the end of that should be, you're not going to let me talk, and then I'll shut up. So his summary at the end of that should be, because of all these probabilities that are impossible, I am now a Christian, and I no longer believe in evolution, or for that matter, anything to do with life or this universe without God. Is that what he says at the end? Or does he just say that, man, the chances of this happening are very, very unlikely? About as unlikely as me going to the ocean.
Mark, hang on.
And
Dude, I'm going to read.
Listen,
Mark, I'm going to reread this, okay? And if you don't grasp why what you just asked is really dumb, I don't know if there's hope for you. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to reread this one more time. Seriously.
John, can you read the hypothesis? The next paragraph after that's also very helpful.
Sure. Okay. Recent developments in cosmology radically changed the conception of the universe, as well as the notions of probable and possible. The models of eternal inflation implies that all macroscopic histories permitted by laws of physics are repeated an infinite number of times in the infinite multiverse. In contrast to the traditional cosmological models of a single finite universe, this worldview provides for the origin of an infinite number of complex systems by chance, even as the probability of complexity emerging in any given region of the multiverse is extremely low. Any given region of the multiverse is extremely low. This change in perspective has profound implications for the history of any phenomenon, and life on Earth cannot be an exception. Origin of life is a chicken and egg problem. For biological evolution, that is governed primarily by natural selection to take off. Efficient systems for replication and translation are required. But even bare bones cores of these systems appear to be the products of extensive selection. The currently favored partial solution is an RNA world without proteins, in which replication is catalyzed by ribozymes and which serves as the cradle for the translation system. However, the RNA world faces its own hard problems, as ribosome catalyzed RNA replication remains a hypothesis, and the selective pressures behind the origin of translation remain mysterious. Eternal inflation offers a viable alternative that is untenable in a finite universe, i.e., that a coupled system of translation and replication emerged by chance and became the breakthrough stage from which biological evolution centered around Darwinian selection took off. A corollary of this hypothesis is that an RNA world, as a diverse population of replicating RNA molecules, might have never existed. In this model, the stage for Darwinian selection is set by anthropic selection of complex systems that rarely, but inevitably, emerge by chance in the infinite universe multiverse.
They're appealing to infinite possibilities is what they're doing.
No, actually, they didn't. If you go back and read it again, he did not say it was impossible. He said it was improbable. Improbable. That's all he said. No, never once did he say it was impossible. He said that it was highly unlikely. Laugh all you want. Highly unlikely is not impossible.
He needs infinite possibilities. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. But the realm of infinite possibilities.
You heard infinite possibilities, did you?
That's the realm of God. I'm explaining it to you. What they're looking.
No, you don't explain things real well. Anyways, you just read it and it said exactly that.
You're not understanding.
It was very unlikely to happen, but unlikely is not impossible.
Well, that's why you need infinite possibilities.
No, you don't.
Appealing to infinite possibilities is the realm of God. It's the same thing.
Okay.
I gotta go pee real quick on that one, because I don't even know, Mark. I'm telling you, man. This is painful. This is really painful. Like you're seriously living in a fantasy land of denial. Like
No, not at all. You
Yeah,
just read
100%.
it. You
Oh,
just read it,
100%.
and it said that it was improbable, not impossible. Improbable. Big difference.
That's why you need the
The chances of anyone being
infinite
born is
possibilities.
improbable. The chances of winning a lottery are improbable, but it still happens.
If you
There's a-
have infinite possibilities.
Where did you get this infinite possibilities from? Where do you grab your stuff from?
It's called the multiverse.
Okay,
Mark.
no, Mark. It is well recognized that when you insert intelligent agents into a problem, intelligent agents can overcome improbabilities easily. No
I
problem.
think it was incredibly improbable for God to come into existence.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay, so Jackson, I know
That's
you're
not how God is
I know now that you have your bandana on, you're probably trying to trigger people, but it's really obnoxious when atheists make stupid ass positions like that when everybody knows, at least people with half a freaking brain and IQ above Forrest Gump, recognize that God isn't supposed to have come into existence. So you're raising a completely moronic straw man. Like, who designed the designer? Duh! Like, that's a stupid ass position. Like, if God exists, then by definition, there is no designer of the designer. Like, this is a well established concept.
Maybe a designer designed the designer, and then a designer designed the designer's designer.
You know what? You know what I found absolutely incredible, and actually, I had a family member that ended up dying from Alzheimer's. So don't ever think that I'm cutting this down, though. But I really enjoyed your talk at the beginning. How they're, the scientists are working on it. They're finding out that it may come from something that comes in through the nose. You're going on about it and on about it. And it might be a bacteria. And I'm thinking, is he listening to himself? Like, why would God make this body system for the special animal, the human? But we do everything the same. We breathe in air. We have to eat. We have to defecate. We have to pee. We have to have dirty reproduction to get through. And it just makes no sense. If there was a God and all the animals were just put here to entertain us, why do we pick up all their viruses? Why do we pick up all the bacterias? And then, yes, you'll find the one or two viruses and bacterias that are good for us. Well, more than one or two. But a lot of them are really bad.
Do you know how many viruses there are that you come in contact with on a daily basis of all the animals?
What's this now?
The viruses that you come in contact with on a daily basis that are totally harmless to you.
What's that have to do with anything? It's the ones that are killing us that I would be more worried about, and the bacteria that are killing us is what I would be more worried about.
Mark,
because of the degradation.
Are most viruses bad for us, good for us, or harmless?
It doesn't matter.
It does
it's
matter.
The ones that are killing us that matter.
Doesn't sound like Mark's familiar with entropy.
Mark, if the vast majority of viruses are either helpful or harmless, why are you asking why viruses even exist? If the majority are either harmless or helpful, not detrimental, if the majority are good, not bad, why are you questioning why they exist?
Why would we be set up that we need viruses to live? How does that even make sense to you?
It's a messaging system.
What? Okay, do you understand what regulation is?
No, now you're talking about, you're trying to pretend that from the very beginning, we just popped into existence and we've always needed these viruses. You're not accepting the fact, because I went and read all about this crap here, where you were talking about, and I'd already known about how the embryo won't move on to the next stage. Of course, it's part of evolution. We have now become that we rely on these insertions into our DNA. It's so obvious if you go and read the papers. And yeah, you can find the odd creationist paper where they pretend that this is proof of God and this is proof of this and that, but it's not the vast majority of what the people are thinking. You find these 1 or 2 papers of these outliers, and with their theory, and it all of a sudden becomes, well, there you go. We need a multiverse. We need this. We need that. It's just not realistic.
So is it your
No,
position
we
that
don't.
the majority of viruses being helpful or harmless, are you suggesting that comes from a creationist perspective?
The way you're trying to say it is. Sure, because when they came up with all these insertions of the retroviruses, the endogenous retroviruses, then all of a sudden everyone goes flying off and finds the ones that have become useful.
I'm asking you if the proponents of the majority of viruses being harmless or helpful, are you suggesting that is being perpetuated by creationist scientists?
Now it's being pushed by definitely science. I don't go with creationist and science. There's science. There's only science.
Okay, fine. Are creationist propaganda agents the only ones that are pushing that the majority of viruses are helpful or harmless?
No, I don't think anyone's pushing for the helpful or harmless. You guys are pushing more for the pointing out the helpful ones. Of course, there's ones that don't hurt us. Of course, there's bacteria.
No. I'm asking about the majority.
The majority of viruses do not hurt us. No.
And are helpful, right? But Mark, we're going back. Mark, you're trying to dodge the question.
No, they become helpful. They become necessary. They're part of our DNA makeup.
That's an assumption. That's an assumption, but that's not what I'm asking you. You started this whole thing off with the direct assertion that they were all bad for us, and why would they exist if there was a creator? Why would they even exist? Yada yada yada.
Say they were all bad.
Mark,
I
honestly,
did not say they were all bad. I said to you, why would he create the ones that are bad for us?
Yeah, okay. Mark, you are a ridiculous dodge artist, man, and a rewriter of your own history. It is fascinating to deal with you, Mark.
I never said they were all bad.
You tried to act, Mark. Dude. You've also stated that no biologists ever said we needed a multiverse to account for improbabilities.
We don't. I still say that.
You still say that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
we can't.
Mark is literally claiming that no biologist has ever said this when we have proven beyond doubt that there are biologists, well-respected ones, that do say this. He's still claiming no biologist says this. He's also claiming that he wasn't earlier making the assertion 10 minutes ago that why would a god create viruses?
Mark, do you suppose that bad viruses, as you described them, do you suppose that bad viruses existed from the beginning of creation in the standard creation story?
According to you, they did.
No.
Yes, you do.
Not bad.
I'm sorry, Mark. You've never heard me even talk about this subject, so no. According to me, no. Actually, the way the standard.
I can't see who I'm talking to.
Just be quiet for a minute and listen. It's T-Rock. In the standard creation history, whenever the world was created, it was created perfect. Did viruses exist then? Absolutely. They are an integral part of pretty much all biological systems. So yes, viruses existed. Were they good viruses or bad viruses? That's the question. The answer is they were all good viruses, and a percentage of them, probably a relatively small percentage of them, two things occur. One is that a good virus in its proper environment starts doing something different due to chemical entropy or whatever you want to throw at it, mutations, whatever. But a good virus in a proper system does something different than what it's designed to do. That's part of the curse of the fall. The other one is that a virus moves from a proper system to a place where it was not designed to be, and it causes problems. So having bad viruses today is basically the product of, well, in the naturalistic sense, it's the product of chemical entropy, i.e. mutations and that sort of thing.
That's what you think the difference between a good virus and a bad virus is?
Yeah, you don't want. There's a reason why Moses prescribed certain types of food to meat to eat and not eat. So it's pretty well known that eating too much pork, too much shellfish, that kind of thing can cause problems. But equivalent amounts of beef and clean fish and stuff like that don't cause problems. It's largely because they have viruses that are incompatible with the human system.
No. I didn't realize that your understanding of viruses was so basic. The viruses that are killing us are interspecial viruses, ones that we have
That's what I
had
just
no
said.
contact with
That's what
before.
I just said,
And
Mark.
they
You
jump
don't
from
listen, Mark. You
species
don't
to
listen.
species. No,
You
you're
don't
talking
listen.
about that all viruses were created at the beginning, all of them. Most of these viruses that jump to us and kill us are ones that we have had absolutely no subjection to, and we have no immune system to kill them. That is all it is. The viruses that we can handle are the ones that our immune systems can kill.
Mark,
Or
you're
literally
talking
just
with
said
control.
yourself. You're arguing with your own thoughts, Mark.
No, not at all. Not
Yeah.
at
You're
all.
not listening.
Nope. They mutate far enough in an animal that they can just jump. For example, my lions and tigers can catch COVID.
Did I not? Can you repeat the two mechanisms that I described, Mark?
For which?
For how viruses become harmful.
Oh, you were talking about through entropy and this and that, and then you're talking about pork, which I'm not sure what pork has to do with a virus, but okay.
So you can't repeat the mechanisms that I described, but you can
About
argue
which?
against them.
I just told you.
No, you didn't. I'll say it one more time for everybody's benefit, particularly those who are not Christian creationists. But two basic scenarios arise. One is where a good virus in its proper location, i.e., one that's inside your body designed to do an important function in your body, starts doing something different. The other one, something different than what it was designed to do. And the other scenario is when you move viruses from one species to another where it does not belong.
Right. That's what I just said. I repeated what you said.
And then you went on to argue that, no, that's not it. But then you described the exact same mechanism as being what was happening.
No,
I could literally end. I could literally
I'm
end this
you
right
why
now.
God created all these viruses to kill us, and then you're trying to say that they're the viruses that we can handle. We just have immune systems that can handle them. That's all.
Well, Mark, can you see from your phone? I've got my screen shared on an important slide here.
Actually, this is trying to get another phone going here so I can read stuff.
Because this is an article. This one's an article just from 2020 from BBC. So obviously not a young Earth creationist source. So it's called "What If All Viruses Disappeared?" I highly recommend reading the whole thing, but here's just one excerpt from it that I added into my repertoire of slides here. Why the world needs viruses to function. The vast majority of viruses are not pathogenic to humans, and many play integral, notice this, integral roles in propping up ecosystems. I pointed this out to you, Mark. I think it was like a year and a half ago when we had a debate on MDD. Others maintain the health of individual organisms, everything from fungi and plants to insects and, notice this, humans. Like, for example, speed of sound, he's so out of date on the literature. In his show the other day, he's like, oh, doesn't Standing understand that like plants and insects, they're full of viruses? I mean, how does he explain that? Well, there you go. All these viruses, I've pointed out, in our body, we have over 10 trillion cells. And yet we have more viruses in and on our bodies than we do cells. Notice this. We live in a balance, in a perfect equilibrium. And viruses are part of that, says Susana Lopez, a virologist. And this is not a young Earth creation, the National Autonomous University of Mexico. Notice this. I think we'd be done. We'd be done without viruses. And this is something I frequently point out in discussions. Here's another paper here. Something I frequently point out in discussions, that you wouldn't want to live on a world that didn't have viruses or bacteria. So here's one I've cited numerous times. This one's an older one, though. April 30th, 2015. Viruses, you've heard the bad, here's the good. Notice this. Viruses, like bacteria, can be important beneficial microbes in human health and in agriculture. And you can go on and read all of this. For sake of time, I'll end it there. But the point is, this is well documented, well understood. The great majority, probably 99% of viruses and viral-like elements, if you want to talk about endogenous retroviruses, are necessary to sustain healthy life processes in the cell, and they're necessary for various ecosystems. Now, if a species or if a virus crosses species from one species to another, from its original environment to a foreign environment or host, then yeah, that host is not going to be able to regulate the virus, and that's where that virus goes from good to bad, and then that virus typically burns hot and fast, and it's negative. But it didn't start off that way, is the point. So what are your thoughts on that? And I yield. I'll send you those, Mark, over Facebook.
Well, the millions and millions of endogenous retroviruses that show up in different spots of our DNA are not viruses that are living in us. They're remnants of viruses that have lived in us, and they've injected themselves into the cell's DNA chain.
Well, that's assumption. And I understand. No, it's assumption that they were inserted millions of years ago is the assumption.
Oh, okay, that's what you're laughing about. Okay, then they were inserted last year, but they go all the way back to chimpanzees, that we can see them inserting themselves in the exact same locations in the exact same cell.
Well, Mark, I apologize to interrupt. Well, I do feel like you're kind of tap dancing, Mark, because I'm curious as to your thoughts on viruses.
I don't know what these viruses have to do with God. What do they have to do with God, except this was the only way that he could do it, was to make something that allowed us to take in viruses that at any point could have turned and killed us?
Mark, this is a virologist, not a young earth creationist, who has literally admitted, I understand you can't see the screen and you can't see the articles and papers, so I'll send them to you. She is a virologist admitting that you would not want to live in a world without viruses. They are an integral portion of the ecosystem and of living organisms. They're integral.
I've got a question for Sal.
I live in a world where there's no guns. But
I got a quick question for Sal.
Well, viruses are not evidence for evolution, is the point.
Hey, Sal.
And neither are viruses. Viruses don't prove God. How do viruses prove God?
Sal, okay, well then show me.
Communication.
Then show me how these viruses
prove God.
Okay, show me empirically how these viruses, or if you want to talk about endogenous retroviruses, again, show everybody, okay, or get any PhD to show us how a non-functional endogenous retrovirus can go from non-functional to something critically functional in the genome when it comes to determining cell types, regulating genes. These ERVs have antiviral properties now. They're fighting bad viruses in our body. I mean, that's fascinating. And yet you assume that these functions were co-opted. Sure, if it's not evidence for design, then show us how this is possible.
But you're already
how does this co-option happen? Go ahead. I talked a lot there.
You're already saying that you believe in evolution when it comes to viruses, that they've gone from viruses that weren't supposed to hurt us. God created them to help us and other species. And now all of a sudden they're killing us at an alarming rate. Like, have you ever seen what smallpox did back in the day, what tetanus did, what rabies did? These are brutal viruses. And
you know why those events happened? They happened because the Old Testament prescribes a way to handle and not handle animals, what to eat, what not to eat. And a lot of those things you described arose specifically because European cultures departed from the common sense practices described in the Old Testament. In other words, they touched dead things, which the Old Testament tells you not to. They ate things like squirrels and pigs and catfish and stuff like that the Old Testament told you not to. And that's where a lot of that stuff came from.
How did the Old Testament handle birds flying over top of you and taking a crap? No, seriously.
No, that's completely irrelevant. I don't know what point you think
that is irrelevant. A bird flying over top of you and taking a crap? Come on.
What's that got to do with viruses and where they come from or why they exist?
Where do you think viruses come from out of birds? We already know that the bats, the viruses that come from the bats, they had a huge outbreak in China when they went in to dig up all their whatever
but
they
Mark,
call
this
that
is well understood.
Fertilizer.
Right,
Mark, you have skin that is
why...
designed to repel viruses.
Or how about the fact that you can just touch your mouth and touch a doorknob and you can pick up a virus? What do you mean you're not supposed to touch animals? How about stepping in their poo?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said, Mark. I said dead animals.
Yeah, dead animals. What do dead animals have to do with spreading viruses compared to one crapping over top of you on your food?
You need to go take a class in OSHA and biohazards if you don't understand that.
You don't think viruses can be passed around by bird crap? Is that what you're saying?
I never said that either, Mark. You're literally making stuff up.
Good. That's why I'm saying this Old Testament thing that says don't touch old dead animals was all we needed for an answer. That was all we needed. The Old Testament explained it completely. How to be safe from viruses, bacterias, all of the other problems that
No, I'm trying to give you an explanation for why some viruses are non-detrimental to people and some are detrimental. And what the Bible identifies as the ones that are detrimental. The ones that are detrimental, well known in modern science, is unclean animals as described by the Bible and dead things. They are.
See, here's the thing. Well, I want to make this point too, is we understood, Mark, we understand why a lot of these viruses would be negative to the health of, let's say, us as humans. I mean, if you were to go swimming in a lake right now, Mark, okay, you'd be, and I'm sure you're aware of the fact that you would literally be swimming in a water full of, a soup full of bacteria and viruses, because these ducks, these geese, these swan, right, they contain all of these different types of viruses. And when they defecate, like you're talking about, in the water, well, what happens? Those viruses get introduced to the water, but those viruses are not harmful. Those viruses are not bad to these various bird species. Okay. But when we pick them up as a human being, they can be bad to us because they are not original to us as a host. And so far it's negative to us because we're not the original host. And it was introduced to us from, well, obviously the birds that were defecating in the water. So we picked that up and we got sick, but the birds themselves don't get sick by those viruses. Why is that, Mark?
Because they have an immune system to it. They've had it in their system for long enough that they have built up an immunity to it, just like we do. We build up immunity to the things that we are used to.
Yeah, but that's your assumption again. If they're healthy and necessary to the various bird species, okay, we can say that they were created that way. Well, you're going to say, well, those functions evolved in this symbiotic relationship, evolved somehow millions of years ago. I mean, how come you don't see how that's like kind of an assumption or storytelling?
Because we already know that all animals run different body temperatures that can control things. Viruses are mainly controlled through temperature. That's how we kill them. That's how we fight them. We get a terrible raise in our temperature, and it finally kills off the non-living virus. I hate to keep calling a virus alive and killing it, but yeah, it's.
I've got a quick question for Sal while I get your attention, Sal. Viruses, do they essentially go into, I don't know how to say it, go into a cell, for example, snip a section of DNA and transport it to another location?
It's chemically done.
Most viruses originated from cells, and they can migrate. That's about all I'll say on that. Even Dr. Dan has admitted possibly all viruses came from cellular life. So I don't know if I answered your question. I'm not a virologist, but it is presumptuous to say that the what they call retroviruses originated as viruses that migrated.
I agree 100%. I think
because I had a show on my channel on elude transposons, and I parried with CRISPR-Cas9. I kind of let him get away with saying some things that were rather ignorant, but I wanted to have his input. But those sections are extremely important to the genome.
So do you think
the indications are that those things that they call junk DNA are probably really important, and it's way more sophisticated than anyone has thought.
So do you think the name retrovirus is actually a misnomer?
No.
Some of them have, well, they can retrotranspose, that is correct. But it doesn't mean their origin was if the Earth is young, if the fossil record is young, and if life is young, those things were created. The other thing is, particularly the elude transposons, they are so key to regulation. If you have them in the wrong spot, it could be deadly. That's why when we have when we have transpositions, in the human genome, it often causes birth defects, because those things they affect the regulation of the genome in a big way, and we're starting to realize why. And so CRISPR-Cas9 appeared on my channel and said, well, we're having a hard time, they're junk because we have to work so hard to find function. And I wanted to say, dude, that's like saying before we discovered the genetic code, it didn't exist because we didn't have strong evidence of it. It's like, well, when we improved our laboratory techniques, that's when we began to elucidate the function. So if the universe, if the Earth, if life is young, and that's why I say don't, argue that life is young, that's evidence against common ancestry right there. And so I started doing a series, I'm starting to do series now on using physics and cosmology to argue that the fossil record is young. People don't hardly even put the faint young sun paradox into this. It's all moot now. I even asked Dapper Dino, I said, hey, Dapper, if life is young, there's no universal common ancestry, is that right? He said, yes. They don't want to admit it. So the way to argue against universal common ancestry is, I think, the most conclusive way is to show that the fossil record and life are young.
Yeah.
Then it's a done deal. You don't have to be arguing genetics anymore.
You mentioned the faint young sun paradox. I take it you think that's a pretty strong argument for a young.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Anytime that the other side is silent on something, that's the argument we make. Because what creationists will do is they let the evolutionists pick the ground. So they'll talk about, oh, look at the evidence of this. And then the creationists will come in there and try to debunk it. I said, don't fight someone head on. They're telling you where they're arguing, that's where they feel their strong point is. Hit them where they're weak, where you have a strong argument. There's a reason they don't want to talk about topoisomerase, if you've noticed on the net, or any of the recent Discovery Institute videos on origin of life. They don't like to debunk James Tour. It's because they don't have any arguments. And so the thing with the faint young sun paradox, you can even look recent articles. They're having a hard time resolving it without appealing to miracles. And then I was just looking at this book, Solar System Evolution. I mean, if you read it with a critical mind, you start to realize the solar system's a miracle, and they're indicators it's young. So that's the way I would argue. That's the way to defeat the common ancestry argument conclusively. It's with the young Earth creationism arguments. Otherwise, if you argue genetics, it's going to be a tough road, and I don't fight that way. But I will say I have engaged whether these supposed junk DNA are junk, and it's beginning to fall apart. And the medical community just doesn't care anymore what the evolutionists say that it's junk, because they may just give token admission that it's junk, but in practice, they assume it has function and it's there for a reason.
Well, I think
they're going to be more successful at finding cures and understanding disease because they have that attitude. The evolutionary attitude has been useless. It's been a hindrance to the advance of science, medical science, in finding cures. They got to just butt out of the discussion. They're no use, and most of the research teams out there that actually try to find cures and understand cell biology and function, they don't have any use. They hardly have any use for evolutionary biologists because they're just storytellers. They're not problem solvers.
Can I ask you a question quickly?
I think there's several key points from Big Bang all the way to modern quote unquote evolution that they have to completely ignore and skip over. And I'll just run through a quick list to demonstrate what that is. They have to ignore the nature of the singularity. They have to ignore the details of inflation. They have to ignore star formation. They have to ignore planetary formation. They have to ignore synthesis of heavy elements above iron. They have to ignore abiogenesis, and they have to ignore the physical nature of the geological strata.
Can we go over them one at a time?
No, would be here.
I would love to go over them all one at a time. I'd like to know what the problem with the singularity is. What's wrong with inflation? What's wrong with the fusing of elements above iron? Where are these problems that I'm hearing
where's
about?
the energy? Where's the energy come from when energy can't make itself? It can't order itself.
What's this? Energy can't make itself, or what are you talking about? Energy can't be created or
Yeah.
destroyed.
Okay. So it can't make itself. It can't order itself, right?
But you do know that it can go between matter and energy, right? And energy back to matter.
Where did it come from? Where did it come from?
Where did energy come from?
Yeah, all these multiverses, you need energy for
What
multiverse.
multiverses? Who in this group has said that there has to be multiverses? I've already said if there's other universes, we have no way of detecting them at this point.
How about this?
So Mark,
how about this
one?
Then?
If there is no multiverse, how do you account for the lack of probabilistic resources that would be needed in order to overcome the recognized improbabilities of life coming into existence by chance?
So here's my thing. If every single evolutionist, every biologist comes together and says that there is absolutely no way that this biology that we see on Earth could have unfolded without the interaction with another universe, then I would say to you, yeah, sure, okay, must be the way it is, because this isn't my specialty. No one here is their
you're
specialty.
not understanding the multiverse. It's not the interaction, it's the unique creation of this universe as opposed to another one.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways,
so
to
if there's
aid
a
in the
universe
possibility
like
of
ours,
life,
you have to listen, Mark, if you want to learn something.
You don't know what you're talking about.
If there's a universe like ours, then there has to be another one almost exactly like ours that'll be exactly the same or different.
To increase the possibilities that to go against these numbers of probability that you're talking about, by having multiple universes working on the same problems of impossibility, then no, if we cannot interact with them, it wouldn't matter if there's an infinite amount of multiverses. If we can't interact with them, they cannot help with our biological.
Has nothing to do with interacting with the other universe.
Yeah, it's the only way you can change. It's the only way you can change probability, dude.
It's your lack of the probabilities. It's your
I don't think you know what
need
you're talking
for more
about.
probabilities.
Yeah, the multiverse is being said that it can be used to lower the possibilities of explaining how we could possibly overcome these astronomically impossible odds that life unfolded in this universe, but we cannot invoke any other universe, period.
But that's not what the argument is, Mark. You're not even listening.
Any other universe
and
is
it's not even our
position. Our biology. It is useless.
It's the naturalist position to begin with.
No, it isn't.
See, we are in a universe that had the probability or possibility of life occurring, but you could have like 100 of our universes where it would never occur, but it just happened to occur in ours. But
there you go. You nailed it.
But it happened to have occurred in ours, just like you were arguing before. You said it happened, so the probability is that it did happen.
The probability is 100% because here we are.
Because
so now we got to decide: was it
happen.
creation?
But
was
you
it
have
creation?
But you have to have infinite universes for that to happen in one universe.
No, you do not.
You don't even understand your own argument, your own position.
No, you don't.
Mark, have you ever heard the saying about statistics?
Absolutely.
What you know what it says?
Everything can happen if you give it enough.
No.
Possibilities. Absolutely.
No, there's a particular saying about statistics that's kind of telling about these types of arguments in general, and that is it goes something like this: there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. In other words, the data doesn't tell you anything except what you want it to tell you. statistics can be extremely deceiving. In this particular discussion, we're talking about the general probability of atoms coming together in a certain configuration to perform, a single peptide kind of thing. But in reality, that is the epitome of what I just said. There are lies, there are damned lies, there are statistics. And the reason is because all of that precludes the possibility of, let's say some atoms in this soup in the ocean are starting to come together in the correct way, but then an asteroid hits and fries everything. In other words, the statistics can't possibly include random events that are bound to happen. So the point that Jungle Jargon and LPP are trying to make is extremely valid, because the general idea is that all of the statistics in the world can't overcome random chances that you can't even mathematically account for.
So if you're going to use other universes to mathematically account for this universe taking place, we are still in this universe, and we were the chosen universe out of the other infinite amount of universes that are out there. And there's no way for us to know if we were the chosen ones or not, except we exist.
Well, when you say you led that particular deal there with you, I'm not a proponent of multiverse. It's the evolutionists that came up with the idea.
I believe in multiverses, but I'm not going to use them to say that that's how biology got here. That if it wasn't, who all's left, by the way? Did Jackson take off? I kind of hijacked his after show, didn't I?
Sal and Jackson are no longer in here.
Who's all still here?
I'm here. So let me get this straight. Okay. You believe in the multiverse.
Yes,
but
I
you
do.
Don't. Okay, cool. So do you think that what is necessary for you to exist is gets to take advantage of the infinite probabilistic resources of a multiverse, or do you think that you are limited to the probabilistic resources of this universe?
I think the universes are incompatible, and I don't think there's any information that can possibly be shared between universes. So I think statistically, no matter how many universes there are, would have nothing to do with our statistical probability. And that is why I believe that when you read this, and I don't want to get into fights and call each other dumb or anything like that. I hate that kind of thing because we're just talking. But I believe that to invoke multiple universes to lower the chances of, like you were saying, to the power of 170 is not in the realm of possibilities. There's no proof that we can interact with any other universe or use statistics.
Mark, I think I've already pointed out that some evolutionists subscribe to multiverse and some don't, for the exact reasons you just described. There's no way to prove an external universe. And so some buy into it, some don't. The ones who do buy into it specifically because of the high improbability of the correct atoms coming together in the correct configuration. There's not enough time in this universe for that to happen. So they jumped out of this universe to look, and it's just like to me, it's exactly like the alien, what's it called, panspermia, where aliens came and seeded life here. It's what you call infinite regression. It's just a way of pushing the problem out somewhere else because you couldn't solve it here.
Yeah, and for me, I wouldn't even invoke other planets, even ones near the closest stars to us. I wouldn't even use them to lower the possibility statistically, because I don't believe that life will ever be able to move from star to star. The distances are just too vast. There's too much problems with it.
Okay, cool. So you don't think that you think you only have the probabilistic resources that are available on our planet?
Just Earth. Just
Cool.
Earth. Possibly
cool.
Mars.
Possibly
Mars.
Okay, then if you think that's limited to our planet, then your total number of probabilistic resources
got way worse.
Is 10 to the 50th.
I know.
Okay,
I'm not saying it's not.
Okay, cool. So you think that when you only have 10 to the 50th probabilistic resources available to you, that something that for just one part of the components that are needed for life to exist, the improbability is 1 in 10 to the 1018th power. And you only have 10 to the 50th to work with. You're telling me that you think that is more likely that you were able to overcome that through
Than
undirected
God?
process, or that you would need an intelligent agent as the more rational conclusion?
Yes, I would. There's nothing you could say to me at this point that would make me believe in a God, because these powers to the power of 170 or anything. If you're honest, I could say to you right now, once you have the outcome, the possibilities of ever getting to that outcome are astronomically high. To go back a million years and say, what would it take for all four of us, or however many people are here right now, to all have been born and all be having this exact same conversation with everything sitting on the table exactly the way it is, the amount of Coke molecules or atoms that are in my glass, everything. It could not happen. It's like me going to the Atlantic Ocean right now and getting a cup of water. The chances of me getting a cup of water are 1 in 1. Not a chance in hell that I couldn't go to the Atlantic Ocean and get a cup of water. If you tell me right now which atoms you want me to go and capture out of the Atlantic Ocean, those possibilities are also to extremely high numbers of it not happening.
Mark,
so no,
Mark,
possibilities
Mark,
don't have
everything
anything
you're
to do with it.
describing. Okay, dude, I'm going to repeat myself again on this. I already brought this up earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Do intelligent agents overcome random chance improbabilities all the time?
No.
No.
Why would they?
Holy shit, Mark. Dude,
why would they?
Mark, dude,
are
seriously.
I know gods,
Mark, I
know
you're not this dumb, dude. I know you're not this dumb. Are you
so tell me again, what are you asking? Do I believe in God or do I believe in chance?
Oh my God, dude, that's not what I asked you.
No. Do you believe in a
Mark, are you
directed
trying to piss people off?
mechanism?
Because I know you're not this stupid.
Okay, say it again. Sorry.
A mechanism.
Okay.
A car. Do you believe there's cars?
In a general sense, Mark, in a general sense, we're not talking theism or anything else. In a very general sense, can intelligent agency overcome things that randomness cannot?
And can we overcome things that? Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can put elements together. We can make things that would never be made if it wasn't for us making them. But that still is just preaching towards something that you're saying, because something has a very high probability that it could not happen. It must be a God. And I think that's dishonest.
So tell me something. If you find a rock laying on the ground, how much intelligence is embodied in that rock?
Oh, who knows? Like, well, what do you want me to say? How much intelligence, how much information's there? More
that's not what I said. I literally said intelligence. I didn't say information. How much intelligence?
There's no intelligence in a rock whatsoever.
Exactly. That's my point. So
tons of information, though.
The implication of the naturalistic paradigm is that it is the specific chemical arrangement in our DNA that makes us intelligent. In other words, it's just the physical location of where the atoms are that determines whether something has intelligence or not.
Yeah, it's the storage of electrical impulses, but okay, yeah, I get it. Yep.
Comes down to electron. Mark, are you actually going to try? Please tell me you're not going to try and argue that rocks contain functional information.
No, but they can. There's information that would be needed to remake them. Yes, and they also have energy.
Okay, is functional information what is necessary for life?
Is functional information? Yes.
Cool.
Where does the information come from?
So, are you going to try and equate the information in a rock with functional information that's necessary for life?
Well, what are you calling information?
Oh God, okay.
No, seriously, what are you calling information?
To make
okay.
Hey, Mark, I want to point out for you.
I can't deal with this stuff tonight. I'm too tired. I've had a really freaking.
Mark, I want to point out for you.
I'm gonna say, I can't. I'm gonna take a break here for a minute in just a second. But Mark, I know you're not this stupid, and you've been having these debates for quite some time. I know you know what freaking information is because you and I discussed it. prescriptive. You know what functional information is. At least you claimed you did, and you know there's a differentiation
I know
between.
what functional
So don't play dumb. This
is
why I
so
get
what
so
are
freaking
you saying about us could not be?
This is what really pisses me off about freaking atheists on YouTube. Mark, I know you're an engineer. At least you claim to be. I know you're training in like lions and stuff, but you claim to be an engineer. So you can't be this fucking stupid. Okay? You can't be this dumb. I don't understand why you play like a freaking moron. It's so obnoxious. It's like I'm dealing with a freaking child who is trying to play so stupid that you can get other little dumbass atheists who are running around begging to have justification for their moronic little freaking small-minded worldview and refusing to actually go down the rabbit hole. It's all you're doing, Mark. It's really obnoxious. It is an insult to everybody else's intelligence. Like, are you actually this dumb? If you're not, stop playing like you're dumb. And I've got you on mute right now, so don't even talk, man. This stuff is just really, really, really freaking obnoxious. I don't know why atheists do this shit. It's like we're dealing with mental children who are, I mean, you're 54, right? Or something like 52, 53, 54, somewhere around there. And you act like you're a freaking 12-year-old boy playing dumb and trying to be a little smart ass on really, really basic, well-established stuff. We reread Eugene Koonen's portion of his paper twice, and then you claim that it doesn't say what everybody else recognizes that it says. So do you suffer? I might take you off mute and you can respond. Do you suffer from like ridiculous reading comprehension non-skill? Like no reading comprehension ability whatsoever? Or are you playing dumb on purpose? Go ahead.
That an evolutionist never wrote a paper saying that if there isn't multiverses, the possibilities are so impossible that it could not have happened. So now I believe in God. No, that's not what
we talked about, Mark. That's not what was being discussed.
He's arguing with.
We're talking about you just recognizing what is actually having to be accounted for in relation to the fundamentals and necessities for our existence, which you're like, I don't want to believe in God, therefore I'm not even going to actually contemplate the point that's being made, which is why I'm accusing you of being a mental freaking child who is desperate to avoid any kind of questioning of your own freaking worldview. Oh my, okay. What's up, Sunflower? How you doing?
You're arguing with your own thoughts, Mark.
What's up?
No, I'm not. I don't believe in God.
Hey, Mark,
I get that, Mark. That doesn't mean you don't have to actually analyze the question. Mark, silence. What's up, Sunflower? How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the stream. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up? First thing that came to my mind was Mark's ocean water example with the 1%. If you ask me to just get a cup of ocean water, I'm gonna get one. People also say things like, if I go find a license plate on the highway, I can get, the odds that if you name the license plate beforehand are low, but if just you're asking for a license plate. But Mark, wouldn't you agree that you can have a decrease in entropy locally, and that's always, and the counterbalance is that people say okay, well, there's going to be an increase in entropy in the overall system whenever you have a decrease in local entropy?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right. So then I would just say, if you look at life as a massively ordered system, like a massive locally low entropy system that maintains itself, that's where I would think that the sort of ocean water or license plate on the highway thing breaks down, because those examples don't involve decreased localized entropy. They just involve naming something, like having foreknowledge. Whereas life itself and the mechanisms, in our body that maintain whatever, I don't know if homeostasis is the right word, but that maintain our lives are decreasing entropy locally. So at the very least, that would be you would not expect that to occur in nature unless there was some counterbalance, like with a refrigerator, right? Inside, the entropy is decreasing because it expels heat out of the back. So I would just ask, do you think there's a counterbalance somewhere in the universe for the highly ordered,
Well, entropy is
mechanism.
just the balancing. You're balancing out energy is all that, that's the final goal of entropy, is to bring everything down to an exactly even state. And
yeah, exactly. And doesn't
we're
it
dealing with a closed system. We're dealing with a body that brings in food. We consume air. Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're asking about this entropy and how it has anything to do with a living body any different than it has to do with inorganic non-living
because
life.
Like a decomposing, like as soon as you die, your body starts decomposing. Like entropy starts going way up. Like you're not absorbing heat from your environment to maintain your own little individual life that in the grand scheme of the universe doesn't, obviously isn't gonna like
you'll very quickly become your surroundings.
Right, and that's not happening while you're alive. So life itself is a perpetual low entropy state.
Yeah, but that's only because of what we take in. We're constantly taking
energy.
Fight against entropy.
But that's the low. That's the thing. The probability doesn't seem to make sense. Like if you saw a something like this, like what's an example of something like that in nature, where it's just like it's not life, but it's like a low entropy localized state that's maintaining itself.
Well, the Earth is constantly taking in energy from the sun, and eventually it will die too. When the sun goes away, it'll no longer be bringing in energy, and then the Earth will take itself to a point of entropy with the surrounding, space.
The Earth is already in low entropy state.
Yes, it is, but it's also taking on constantly.
I'm sorry. I mean a high entropy state.
Yeah, high entropy state, but it's not. But it's continually taking in energy from the sun, and it's constantly expelling energy.
What is it? It's not converting it to anything.
Which doesn't have any direction.
Yeah, like obviously life, like a human being.
Direction. That's what entropy is.
A human being maintaining their own life, like through massive intake of like energy.
Yeah, we're really only keeping life going because we do have an energy source just like the sun. If the sun wasn't here, we would not live, period. All energy on this earth comes from the sun.
Well, but we're manipulating it, like we're specifically manipulating it to maintain our own low entropy system in a way that other natural things don't.
But does that make sense with a god, that if we can't eat, we die, or if we can't expel our food?
Well, all I'm doing is saying that. All I'm trying to do is say that, like, I don't think you can explain away localized systems that perpetuate their own highly ordered low entropy state without. You can't dismiss that away as probabilistic because you don't see that anywhere else in nature besides life.
Well, life is the only thing that takes in other life to continue to live. There is no other mechanism for man to live without killing things, and that's where the original sin thing just completely falls apart. You can't put a size on life. No, plants are alive. Plants are cellular.
Yeah, but it's not animal life.
Okay, so if there's bacteria that live on the sun, so cyanobacteria, so I'm not really following your point. Like just because there's
Sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Are you suggesting that cyanobacteria are not living off of light?
Who said that?
Okay, you were making a point about
there was no
death
before sin.
No, you were claiming that because we're eating other forms of life, that's how you have to live, is to eat other forms of life.
That's right.
And right. So what about the bacteria and plants that live off of light, not eating other forms of life?
What do I think of that? Well,
the point I just made completely obliterates your other point.
No, actually it doesn't, because if there wasn't life for life to get started, you can't have life get started if there's nothing to eat. Obviously, it had to find its energy source somewhere else. Are you saying that at one time we were able to absorb all of our energy from the sun and we didn't have to eat things? I'm sure you're not saying that.
From your own, okay, from your own worldview model, okay, some of the earliest forms of life were cyanobacteria that weren't eating other bacteria.
That's right.
Okay.
What's that have to do with us?
Oh my.
Because some life doesn't have to eat life, therefore God and
original sin existed. Okay, guys, we're gonna call it a night. I can't deal with dumbassery tonight.
I guess you can.
I've been up since 7 a.m. It's now 1:37 a.m. my time. I'm getting tired, and I'm about to flip my script because this is just unbelievable. Anyway, I did not kick Mark out of the stream. I don't know where he went. Okay, let's do last words. Who wants to say something before we go to bed? Oh, actually, I need to go on a long-winded diatribe real quick. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has been helping to back the fundraising campaign for Edie. Right now, we are sitting at, I haven't checked in a while. Let's see. Oh, my goodness. We are at $875. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Let's get to that initial stage. Greatly appreciate that. And I will give everybody a heads up on helping Edie get taken care of. And hopefully we will be able to help get her on a good path to, Anyway, so thank you guys very, very much. Appreciate everybody for supporting that campaign. And it's very encouraging to me that, hey, even though people have different opinions and perspectives on things, we're all kind of able to come together, and folks were supporting the campaign and putting the money where their mouth is in relation to, hoping to help our fellow human and one who is in a state where she actually needs our support. So thank you guys very, very much for that. Okay. All right, let's do last words before we call it night and go to sleep.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first. And I've been thinking about the verse that says that Jesus said to Peter, do you love me? And he says, yeah, I love you. And he says, feed my sheep. And I believe that what standing for truth and what you are doing, John, is feeding his sheep. And I think that's the most important thing to do.
Well, I appreciate that. I just need to work on not allowing my temper to get the better of me. Even though the frustration level gets ridiculous at this point. But I appreciate you, Jungle. And yes, the sheep need to be fed. That's very true. That is very true. I'm guessing Donnie fell asleep because I don't think he mainlined coffee and he's been around for a while. So Donnie, are you awake? I'm guessing no. Okay. Sunflower, any last words?
Yeah, I know I wasn't really on the stream for very long, but I don't know. It did at some points sort of seem like Mark was just like not trolling, but just like intentionally refusing lines of argumentation and just going like, what? And that means God? It's like, well, no, we were trying to go along the line of reasoning, and then he just sort of throws his hands up and goes, what? That means God? It's like, okay, I guess you can do that, but it's like kind of like juvenile. But anyway, I mean, I don't know if I properly articulated my entropy thing, but like the whole point is like you can't just say like, oh, we stumbled upon something that functions just like the Large Hadron Collider in nature, and that, hey, look, that's just the odds of finding that were just 100% because this is the universe we're in. It's like, well, no, the odds of any of matter arranging itself in a way that massively decreases entropy locally, perpetually, that's a different kind of like statistic improbability than just saying like, I think I'm going to find a license plate, QZTR, whatever. Like one of those is just like having weird foreknowledge. The other one is like an actual system doing stuff with energy and like interacting with thermodynamics. So whatever. I didn't really articulate it well, but
I followed what you were saying, and the other aspect of that too is like, even if you found the license plate that had the, you know, whatever the numbers were, you still have to ask yourself what made the license plate and what would be necessary for the license plate to exist. Because the Evo atheists want to act like, oh, the license plate exists, therefore the license plate exists. And it's like, yeah, cool, but was there a freaking machine? Was there any kind of tooling technology that was used to create the damn thing? And what about the paint and the different, you know, stains or whatever they used to make the imagery on there, and the numbers? And what about the little sticker that's got the freaking expiration date of it? And how were the freaking numbers and letters instantiated onto the piece of metal?
Yeah, and the real tragedy here is that if you push them, the Evo atheists will eventually just say that like life is as trivial as non-life from a probabilistic standpoint if you just think of everything as like matter, which is just so like actually like perverse. Like to think about like the human like consciousness and intelligence and be like, it's just, you know, it's like that stupid Diet Coke and regular Coke guy. Like obviously there's something special about like not only life, but like the human mind. Like, come on, like people that trivialize that are, I consider them just bad faith. If they're not willing to humble themselves and say like there is something at the very least very special going on here, that's like a dead end for me.
Well, if you're gonna say, well, there's information in the rock, I mean, which is what we heard tonight. Like that's where I draw lines. Like in my debate 2 years ago with T-Jump, he said there's information when two rocks bang together. I said, are you suggesting that type of information is the same as computer information in computer code? He said yes.
It makes absolutely no sense. And
then tonight, Mark's counter was, what do you mean by information? It's like, so we've already established that there is something different, which, like functional information and the information in a rock. But then you're going to ask me what I mean by information after we've already established that there's a differentiation between the two. Oh no, you realize that you opened your mouth and you stuck your foot in it, and therefore you're going to go with try and do it in a misdirection.
Yeah, and then
that's all Mark does. Every single one of his debates, he answers questions with questions. He comes on after shows. He doesn't actually answer things in a rational, like thoughtful, intellectual manner. It turns into a garbage fest of you're never. Actually, he said it tonight. It was kind of interesting. Towards the end, he said he's never going to believe in God.
I heard that. I when I said that, I put the like emojis. Like he said, there's nothing you could say to me at this point that would make me believe in God. It's like, well, okay, well then that's.
And then why are you here?
When someone says that is like the sort of smoking gun of like, oh no, this person just made up their mind and they're, you know, a baby throwing a tantrum and they're in denial. That's not an argument. That's not a neutral position. That's just a person putting their cards on the table and saying, oh no, I just don't like it and I'm just going to refuse it no matter what. Like, okay, well at least you told us. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but that's all I got though.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. But anyway, folks, I want to say thanks again for everybody hanging out this long into the wee hours of the morning, as well as the start of the day for folks on the other side of the pond, other parts of the world. Appreciate you guys very much. And thanks again for everybody who supported the campaign. As I said, I will, and fundraiser, I will definitely keep everybody up to date on how all that goes. And as we go to bed, I always like to say at the end, make sure as you contemplate the fundamentals of our existence and all the different things that would be necessary for it to be plausible for us to even be here, make sure that you use your critical thinking skills, and ultimately the conclusion you reach is logical, plausible, and probable. Have a good night, everybody. I appreciate y'all very, very much.